Hello and welcome back to the Motorsport podcast. I'm your host DD, and joining me today once again is my friend and your co-host Vedant. On this episode, we'll just be recapping the last month pretty much because we haven't recorded a new episode in quite a while since I was traveling over the last month, and I don't think I have been so out of touch with the world of motorsport in the last 3 years. It's been a little weird getting back into it. I almost feel lost.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not much better than you because there was not much going on. It was the off season and there was only one weekend where everything happened, right? But at the same time, I had a bunch of assignments and everything to complete. So I myself was a little out of touch, but yeah, let's just get back into the motorsport spirit, I guess.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's all kicking off again this upcoming weekend. We have WEC, obviously.
Yeah,
We have IMSA.
IMSA
We
WEC.
have F1 once again, and a bunch of other stuff happening all around. But let's talk about my experience at the Hyderabad E-Prix, which you wanted to know about. I know it's been long. Everything's been said and done already. There's nothing more I can add to it, but to just give you my personal
I mean, just the
perspective.
ground experience of it. Yeah.
Yes, just the ground reality of what happened. No, I was not in the hospitality suite. We don't have any media access. I was just another everyday regular spectator at the
Yeah,
Hyderabad E-Prix. Um, the way I want to preface this is I am just glad that it happened.
of course, of course.
But if it happens again, someone like me will not want to revisit the Grand Prix again unless I'm in the media center or have some credentialing. I am not paying to go back to Hyderabad E-Prix the way it was done this year over and over again in the future. Now that seems a little bit harsh, but I'll tell you why I'm saying what I'm saying. So there was enough infrastructure. Yes, things were a little delayed and everything, but we got there just fine. Now, one of the biggest issues that I had during the race was not only obviously Hyderabad's a very hot place even in February. It was like 40 degrees C or something. We were burning up and everything. But there's so much construction, not just going on the circuit, but around the circuit. So you're literally walking in dust and all sorts of like building material all around you, marble, concrete. So it's a very dusty place to be. It's not easy, and there's no shade for any spectator to sit under. Like we got lucky there. We ended up sitting right underneath one of the big screens, so we were under the shade. But literally everyone else around us, especially the people who had paid for like the premium seats, the 10,000 rupees seats,
Hmm.
um, they didn't have any shades just across the track from us. Some of the other things that happened was there wasn't enough like signage, to tell people what where was available. So the fan village in the original map was released was like basically in the infield of the track, but the fan village was absolutely somewhere else. So like I think it was like a kilometer and a half walk from where we were to get to the fan village.
Oh,
And these are some logistical problems, just some logistical problems that I'm going over right now, and I'll get into the worst things after that I saw happening um, at the E-Prix. The next thing was, so we were at the fan village and we were coming back, and they closed the bridge that we need to get back to the stands. So we are on the other side of the track and we need to go over this bridge to get to the stands, and they just simply closed this bridge without any notice. So how am I supposed to get to the fan village, from the fan village back to my seats, or from my seats to the fan village? Then, since there was no signage to tell us what was where, we finally found out that there were eating stalls and other water places about another like kilometer walk the other way,
hmm.
right?
Yep.
Not towards the fan village, but another way. And there was nothing to tell us that. We just followed the crowd and asked people around, and they somehow happened to know eventually, right? Uh, and then the big issue comes was there just wasn't there weren't enough resources to cover everybody's just simply like just food and water needs. There
Ah,
just wasn't
that's
enough
yeah.
resources. And lastly, there just wasn't enough staff, and I think that was the biggest problem for crowd control, for making sure that things go smoothly. And this is not an issue that is happening at the Hyderabad E-Prix. Just at the Hyderabad E-Prix, we know this is an issue at a lot of events across India, but they were really, really short staffed. And I'll tell you what was the worst example of this that I saw throughout the day. So the Hyderabad E-Prix organizers or Formula E, whoever, right? They were supposed to give out these wristbands, I think 500 of those, for the driver meet and greet or driver autograph session, right?
Yep.
There was no information on where you would get these bands exactly. It just said go to an information kiosk and they should have some. Um, there was no time given. There was no crowd control. There nothing. and it seems most of the volunteers who were working that day on the ground were high school students, 11th, 12th graders,
Okay.
and there was these 12th graders who were started giving out bands, and we saw a lady who got a band for herself, got a band for her daughter, was unable to get a band for her husband, um, because someone snatched the band from the kid's hands and ran away. And for some reason, she ended up shouting on the high schoolers for letting that happen.
Yeah.
And then there was another ABB FIA Formula E personnel who had to try and calm her down and save the kids from taking the bashing. So it was that bad. And I'm not blaming Formula E for this, but the organizer should know of these things happening. It it pains me to say, but it is not that uncommon for this to happen at an event where it was taking place.
Yeah.
So again, all of these things just added up. Like it took me, first of all, I walked all the way to the fan village, and it took me another 45 minutes to get 5-6 bottles of water because there was no crowd control. You couldn't pay in cash. I didn't have a Paytm wallet or a UPI because I don't live in India anymore. So that was an issue. So I had to find someone who was willing to take cash from me and pay on my behalf to get me water. But to just get through the crowd took me about 35 minutes alone. And then on the way back, the number of people that offered to buy a bottle of water from me, not even a 1 liter, like a 300 ml of water off of me for double or triple the amount of money just because they didn't know how far water was insane.
Oh, that's sad. Yeah.
Like I got, so the bottle of water costed me 50 rupees, but I got offered 100, 200 rupees just to give out water on my way back to multiple people. Just because people didn't know, all the stalls were not set up, and people didn't know where to find water.
But that's
So on the ground, it was a harsh reality. Now coming to the racing seemed to be really good. I think the circuit works very well for the racing, which is a great, I won't say achievement, but a great.
yeah.
It's a point in their favor. Whoever designed the circuit and whoever put it all together, it works really great. The racing we saw was awesome, especially towards the end. It was a very close race, so big up to the circuit designer, I guess, for that. Not necessarily the organizers. They did overdo the seating and the number of tickets they sold. Okay, I'll come to this also. So I heard apparently there was a whole grandstand missing at the Hyderabad E-Prix. There was this whole group of people complaining that they couldn't find the grandstand. So there was a whole, and this wasn't one of those 1,000 rupees grandstand or 35. This was the top tier grandstand, which was simply missing from the circuit. I'm not sure what happened. I saw it before qualifying started. Before qualifying started. So I'm not sure what exactly was going on. But I think because they wanted so much seating around the track, some of the placements of, let's say, the sections and the grandstands were really bad. Like even the grandstand we were at was it was not a great grandstand to watch racing from. It was, all I saw was a car go about 150 meters in a straight line.
That's bad.
That is not what you want to watch. And there weren't enough people to fill the grandstands, I'll tell you that. Yes, the 1,000 and 3,500 rupees grandstands were more or less full, but all the higher tier grandstands were pretty empty from what I saw. So clearly they can, provide better facilities. Additionally, I don't even remember seeing a toilet anywhere. I saw a few porta potties here and there, but I don't remember seeing a toilet anywhere that was open. So I'm not sure what the thing was, but I was so dehydrated that I didn't have to go to the washroom, thankfully, from having almost no water around. But again, security as usual was pretty lax, but it seems to be the case for most events, racing events I've been to, except for maybe the Indy 500. Like the security was pretty lax and Daytona, because it's actually like a pretty, it's an actual race circuit. But I remember even at Kota, security was sort of lax and all of that. But yeah, I'm just glad they were able to put the event together, and that's about it. Because if they do a repeat of what they did this year, I'm sure they're gonna lose spectators rather than gain them.
Yeah, I think it's summed up like almost any event that, like the symptoms of almost any event that you have in India, and that is including the IPL, which has so many resources behind it, right?
Yeah.
So
bad crowd control,
Yeah,
not enough staff, not enough resources, and just not enough people to tell you, not enough information out
yeah,
there.
absolutely.
First of all,
It's
so yeah, I saw people ordering Zomato and going and picking it up from the edge of the track, essentially.
yeah, that's just typical. But yeah, it's sad. It's sad to see, like it's sad to hear your experience, but at the same time, even the accredited people from the media, and if you hear the race podcast, I think Jack Nichols appreciated it because he loves India, but Sam Smith and everyone else just did not like it. And the rumblings behind the scene have been that there is disagreement between the promoter and Formula E, so them likely won't be the second event, and which is pretty much the Formula E model in some places, right? But yeah, it's sad. It's sad nonetheless that you have expectations and you build up the event, a world championship coming to India, and then when this happens, it's not encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, I think the racing saved the day. That was it. I mean, I was sad that it was my younger brother's first experience of watching a live race,
Yeah,
because it was not up to the standard of from a spectator's point of view. But other than that, I think the race itself was really good, and it was really great that the Mahindra was on the podium. So
yeah,
it was a great day for the fans. Otherwise, but again, I've already alluded to this before. But would I do this event again? Would I go to Hyderabad E-Prix all over again? No, I would just watch it from my couch at home, 100%.
yeah. And it's this whole experience of yours is not comparing it to the American experiences. It's just the
No,
basic
not
stuff,
at all.
right? Yeah,
And I've had bad experiences even in the US. Like Kota
yeah,
was not the best experience, right? It was all right. It was not a great experience. It was all right, but again, I also had medical issues at that point, so I was not in the best of my health anyway. But the Kota
yeah.
experience
But
wasn't the best.
just not meeting the basic stuff is
Yeah,
not
exactly,
right. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Like there are some things that you just can't get away with, and all of those things were present there. I remember even like they had issues with power supply around the fan village. I
uh-huh.
remember reached the fan village and we were, I think, at the Porsche or the Mahindra, pop-up tent essentially, and they had these 3-4 driving simulators over there,
Yeah,
and we couldn't use them because there was no power.
yep, yeah. I get
So
that. Yeah,
So, I mean, it just pains me to describe all of this. Obviously, I want this event to be successful in India,
yeah,
and I want to be able to go and enjoy it and speak highly of it, and get people excited about it. But I just can't do that genuinely if the ground reality is like that.
yeah, yeah. Of course.
So, yeah, I mean, that was that. And would I recommend that you go next year? Next year will be better. I would say wait another year to see if it first of all, does it happen
If it
again,
happens again, yeah,
and if it happens, how well does it happen? I would say don't even go next year. If it happens like a third year, then yes, maybe then
yeah.
it's worth
Like
going.
it's the argument of progression, but it's not guaranteed. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. But yeah, that's all about it. We can jump into the other stuff unless you have any more questions about the Hyderabad E-Prix.
No, I don't have any questions about the Hyderabad EP. I have a question for you about the Mahindra because they are in deep trouble. Mahindra
Nah, they
and
are.
their customer team Cupra, like they couldn't participate in Cape Town with their issues, and it's not guaranteed. Like they are confident that they will participate in the next round, but it's not guaranteed that they will because of the underlying issues. Yeah, it's a devastating start to this season for them.
So what is the question?
I mean, do you think like where is this going? Do you think
I think
yeah,
it's gonna be
I
like
don't know.
every other Mahindra season ever.
Yeah, 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 that's true.
I mean, it looked promising at the start of the season during the first race, and then at Hyderabad,
Yeah.
because they did have the pace, but it doesn't seem that the powertrain is efficient enough
They had
to
qualifying pace but not race pace essentially.
yeah, yeah,
Energy
yeah,
management phase
essentially.
of it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, Mahindra's always been a little behind on development, so it's not exactly surprising. It will, it seems, come down to the Porsches almost, or the Porsche customer teams and Porsche for the title fight.
Yeah. And even I
Unless,
mean DS also fought back a bit But
Yeah,
yeah,
unless something drastic
yeah.
happens, but like more consistently, it seems it'll be them. But yeah, I don't think there's a lot to talk about Formula E. Everybody's waiting for the season to unwind. I think the bigger question, at least for me as a Formula E
I mean, for
spectator, is what are they going to do with Gen 4? Because Gen 3 is a write off for me because they still don't have. I mean, what, we are like four rounds into the season. They still don't have fast charging. We're still
yeah,
waiting on that.
yeah,
The drivers are not enjoying the cars that they're driving. We've seen multiple issues, technical issues, more often than with Gen 2, obviously. But again, we caught the last bit of Gen 2 when they already had the car for a couple of years. So clearly,
yeah.
I mean,
But
obviously they
yeah,
had less problems with it.
but yeah,
But
it's no. Just continue.
I was gonna say Gen 3 is literally a write off. Like if Formula E wants to survive, Gen 4 is where they need to nail it.
Yeah, absolutely. And work must have begun on it because now they know, like, I don't know what their lead times and the development times of it is, but I'm assuming when you launch Gen 3, you start working on the basics of Gen 4. And if they can rectify these errors in the coming seasons, but also in Gen 4, and create just a better championship, because Formula E Gen 2, it peaked in Gen 2, basically in the middle of Gen 2, but it hasn't risen up during Gen 2, and now Gen 3 is
It
uh,
hasn't recovered from the COVID hit.
yeah,
It hasn't.
yeah,
The simple way to put it is
yeah,
it hasn't recovered from COVID. And I think we talked to Jack Nichols about this. Like, okay, why, when everything else has boomed, all digital content is on the rise during COVID, why is Formula E struggling?
yeah,
Um, so I think it just comes down to how Formula E is getting managed essentially, and it seems that Alejandro Agag is split amongst so many things that he's unable to really. I mean, he's definitely created three different series now, right? But he's unable to like take any one of them to great heights, almost you could say, or really make one of them popular and really send the message across of sustainability that he wants to. All right, yeah, enough about Formula E. Let's talk about Formula One a little bit. What a surprise from Aston Martin at the start of this year. I
oh my
mean,
god, yes.
you must be on cloud nine. You must be on cloud nine.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a surprise. You no one expected them to be right there where they are. Like, they had good race pace towards the end of the season last year, and they were developing quite well. But to just obliterate the entire midfield and Mercedes along with it is just incredible. And yeah, Fernando Alonso has never, like, he's always happy at a new team, but
Would you
it's
say this is the first sign of the new technical regulations working in its own favor, or the cost cap and the basically the cap system working in its favor?
Yeah, I think so, because again there has been some convergence from the midfield teams as well. Look at Williams; they have improved quite a lot. If you look at Haas and Alfa Romeo, they have improved. They improved last year with their longer development time in 2021, but still they have kept up their improvement this winter as well. But yeah, I think the cap system with cost cap and developmental caps is working, and the new cars, the technology behind them to encourage more racing is also working, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah. I'm not surprised that Ferrari is a dumpster fire after just the first race.
yeah,
I mean, I will preface this by saying, Bahrain is an outlier track, but again, we know the history of Ferrari and how that organization works, and it seems like it's a dumpster fire at the moment with Vinya and with people. I think their concept lead is leaving. I can't
yeah,
recall his
the
name.
vehicle
Someone,
concept
yeah,
leads something like in the
is leaving.
yeah
It is also rumored that Lauren Mekies and someone else from the top technical
leadership
leadership
team.
might
Yeah,
might be leaving in the future. So it is a dumpster fire, and it seems Vinya is getting more and more involved. Fred Vasseur is a little too positive for his own good. It seems putting a positive spin on things when they don't seem as positive. But it seems that there's a dumpster fire for no reason whatsoever, almost. And I don't think this is a start that Fred Vasseur would be looking for, having just joined Ferrari after a massive, massive setback, at least for me, to see Matteo Binotto leave.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not the place you want to be as Ferrari, like in terms of their recent seasons, but as Fred Vasseur, when you just come into a team, when you just get the key of this team, the reins of this team, and everything around you just burns up. It's not the best place to be. It's not the worst. It's definitely not a good place to be, and I don't know how this will go forward. Ferrari has always had issues between the race team and the corporate management, and it traces back years and years. But yeah, I
I think the question, I think before the season started, I was asking was how long before Fred Vasseur gets sacked. The question I'm asking now is how long before Fred Vasseur quits.
leaves. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's just it because see, Mattia Binotto and all the other previous team principals were Ferrari products. Mattia Binotto was a Ferrari product for decades, and Arriva Bene and all these people had ties with Ferrari before. Fred Vasseur does not have any ties with Ferrari. He came in as an employee, as an outsider, and he does not have any emotional stake or anything like that in it. He will leave. He will leave, and he has done it before with
I mean,
Renault.
if someone like Mattia Binotto can leave, there is there is no reason
Yeah,
for Fred
Fred
Vasseur to
Vasseur
not leave.
to say,
But anyway, the other dumpster fire that I was not expecting is what seems to be like Mercedes. Toto Wolff. I've never heard Toto Wolff speak so harshly about his own team. I think that's a new development to have happened this year. And
that's
Lewis
true.
Hamilton was
And Lewis
also quite
Hamilton.
critical
Yeah.
really early on. So things are not looking good at Mercedes. For all the culture that they have created, seems that finally the patience is coming to an end after a year of struggle.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like this year will be very important for them because their concept is the third concept, and they are the only team with it, which is
I
strange.
think what hurts most is being beaten by a customer team.
Yeah, that's exactly true. And they have development to do. They have improved their bouncing, and they have improved their ride, but they are still slow. They are still they still lack race pace particularly, and I don't know if they'll drastically change the concept this year, but this year's development would be key to claw back that
Yeah, I mean,
deficit.
there's a couple of things that have happened over the last year, right? James Allison has moved back to a factory role. Um,
Yeah,
we had who's the Williams team principal? James Walls leave,
James always leave. Yeah,
and there were definitely people who left for Aston Martin last year from Mercedes. Maybe not the top brass, but definitely I
but
think
people did.
the
I mean,
but
yeah,
a lot of talent left Mercedes. So I think that speaks a little bit. But I mean, you have to be excited about Aston Martin. You know, they're gonna get a new wind tunnel in a year or so. They're gonna have better facilities, so it's definitely up and up for Aston Martin from here on. And it was also kind of nice to see Lance Stroll, even after that injury, finish just a
yeah,
couple positions behind Fernando Alonso. So good things in the on the way for Aston Martin. But at the same time, another British team, McLaren, just back of the grid. Pack up your bags and leave. The new Williams.
yeah. I mean, we didn't really acknowledge and or appreciate Lawrence Stroll's comments about his hopes for Aston Martin. He Yeah,
I never did.
exactly.
I was never
They
hopeful.
wanted he wanted to be championship contending in 3 years or something like that.
He said 5 years. I think
Yeah, I
5
mean
years.
whatever the timeline was, nobody was expecting that to be true, and but he made it happen. They did like a lot of talent poaching as such, and
Yeah.
they which is legal. They copied concepts from Red Bull, and it's not the pink Mercedes saga at the moment. It's a genuine concept of their own, and it is working. It is absolutely pushing them forward, and they are the second or third fastest car.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but I think the biggest question, even I think, okay, let me break this down. So I think the reason Red Bull has done or has managed to do better than Mercedes and Ferrari is not just because of the technical team that they have, it's also because of the way they have managed the cost cap. And I think Ferrari and Mercedes have struggled massively with that, even though that is not something that has been discussed a lot in
Yep.
public. And I think Aston Martin, having come from their roots that they have, Sahara Force India,
Yeah, they are good at it.
and then
They are absolutely good at it.
Racing Point, and then in between everything, right? So they always did more
Yeah.
with less, and now they have that much more. So I think and you, I mean, not. I don't want to miss out on the fact that they did breach the cost cap technically last year, um, but I think that is one of the reasons of why they have been able to make this jump. Not just because of the technical team that has been put in place, but also because of of their history essentially and where they come from and the practices that were there. Even though Otmar Snafs are left, a lot of those practices or the way they went about developing things must have still been in
Yeah, the,
place.
the culture
And
stays, and the efficiency of that organization has always been incredible. And not even in the Force India days, but if you trace back even before that, I think Jordan was the first team Silverstone entry, right?
yes, I think so.
So even Jordan days, it was a small team pushing big, and they were in championship contention in '99 or 2000, somewhere like that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not surprising when you look at it. It was just like when Lawrence Stroll said it. We were just like, okay, your child is literally racing for
Yeah,
you, and he's not
yeah,
that great. So,
yeah. Yeah.
mm.
But I so
um,
on that note, I think it would be like we don't know what Lance's future would look like, and if like will he be replaced or whatever. But I think this year, and obviously Alonso will beat him, not if not substantially, but you expect Fernando Alonso to beat him.
I mean, there is
Yeah,
no question in
but
there.
I
There
think
is
it
no
would be
question
a
in there.
good season for Lance to put his own benchmark, because if he can't match to Fernando in this machine, and not even match Fernando, but perform in this machine, which is it's
Yeah, if he can't be the
yeah,
Sergio to
exactly.
Max,
And
then
there would be question there
it's a
still are
difficult one.
questions raised for his place in the team, but he can either brush them aside with a super season, or those questions will just rise and rise.
Yeah, and I think Aston Martin is if Aston Martin can continue the development that they've done over the winter, uh, even if they're not in, let's say, a championship contending place by the end of this season or even next season, I think if they manage to be second in the championship, they are putting themselves in a place where a lot of young talent will
Exactly.
want to
Yep.
move there. And by that, I am first of all alluding to Charles Leclerc, whose contract is ending in a couple of years
No,
or
no,
at the
no.
end of this year.
His
I don't
contract,
know.
I think
Me
25 something.
2020. I thought it ended at
Lando
2024.
Norris.
Anyway, Lando Norris. Maybe not George Russell, but obviously they have Felipe Dragovic. But there's a lot more people in and around who will want that seat if this continues to be the case. So yeah, that's looking good. But I think that's true for most teams, who are competing with Red Bull. Is just how well can you keep up the development pace? Because we saw literally everyone except maybe Mercedes a little bit fall off last year towards the end in the development race compared to Red Bull. There was
Yep.
there was no match for them. So I think that is continues to be a huge concern. But that's all about it for Formula One. IndyCar, what a weekend for IndyCar, opening weekend for IndyCar in St. Pete.
Oh, it
Totally
was
missed that race,
explosive.
but the amount I've already read about it is insane.
It was an explosive race. I couldn't catch everything, but I mean, what a race! You had everything in it. You had good racing. You had multiple crashes,
And Marcus Ericsson wins
and
after another red flag.
Marcus Ericsson winning.
Still hasn't won a
And
non-red flag race, this guy.
yeah, and speaking of Marcus Armstrong had a good debut. Callum Eilert,
Yes, Juncos
P5.
Hollinger
What an
Racing
incredible race from
P5.
Callum Eilert.
Yep.
They both have a like Callum has joined Marcus's podcast, and they talk motorsports now, which is good. Earlier they used to talk food and stuff, but yeah. it's good. It's good that they're doing that, and I enjoy that podcast because they talk about the realities, the paddock, and they give like insights from it's like Drive to Survive.
Also, it's a European perspective on
Yeah,
American
exactly.
racing, which is not usually, you don't usually get that.
Yeah, it's sort of Drive to Survive, but less filtered, sort of, because they talk about other drivers and their styles and their behaviors as well. But and which gave me some insight into the Prema and MP Sports situation
Hmm.
this year, where I mean we can talk about it later, but yeah, IndyCar was incredible. Saint Pete.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I got a text from a friend saying, so he's not super into IndyCar. He doesn't watch it a lot, but he's like, but he ended up watching the Saint Pete race, and he was like, man, IndyCar race was so much better than F1 this week, and I was like, it usually is, man.
Exactly.
Like forget F1, start watching
Uh,
IndyCar. But
Roman
yeah,
Grosjean and
Colton Herta.
Colton. No, not Colton.
Oh, sorry,
Scott McLaughlin.
Scott
Scott
McLaughlin.
McLaughlin clashing, and I mean they made up after it, but yeah, it was a very hectic and very happening race. Absolutely.
Yep. I was gonna say something, but I forgot now. So that was IndyCar. F2. Okay, F2. What a weekend for Kushmani. What a weekend for
He
Kushmani.
has been
I mean,
incredible. Yeah.
one of his biggest rival, I would say, being Jehan Daruvla. And what a weekend for him. Missed out on a podium, unfortunately, but I think that was a dream start to his F2 career. And if he can keep that up, I think he'll be stealing a lot of fans from Jehan Daruvla who've been watching F2
Yeah,
recently.
he might become the protagonist of Sada plan, because Jehan has extended that plan a lot, and Kush has just come to it. You know it.
Okay, talking about Jehan though, he has so after the last season ended, he said, "Oh no, F1 is still the goal." When there were rumors about moving to FE, but he's changed that tune now. Like Jehan is like, "Yeah, Formula is where my
Yeah, he
future
has signed
is."
with Mahindra now. He's doing a lot of PR work with Mahindra as well. But talking about Kushmani, he showed his qualifying pace in F3 last year. He had
Yeah.
a few good qualifyings, but his qualifying in Bahrain was incredible, and he matched it with his race driving and his race pace and his tire management, which is key in Formula 2. It was an incredible performance from him. His tires dropped off in towards the end, and uh, he missed out on the podium. And I think the guy who got the podium started 18th or something. Uh, I don't remember the name, but it was a great performance from. And Jehan had a good start to the race.
He had a good sprint weekend too, Jehan.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think I'm talking about the
Good
sprint
sprint
only.
race. Yeah, he came from outside the top 10 and
Yeah,
finished
yeah.
fifth, I think.
I think in the
Um,
race he dropped off, but in the sprint he scored some points here.
yeah. But yeah, I didn't watch F3, so I have no idea what happened there.
F3 as usual was half behind the safety car and in yellow flags, but
Okay.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's exciting to be back. It's exciting to be getting back into watching all of this again. Obviously, I'm going off to Sebring next weekend for the super, or this weekend,
yeah,
literally tomorrow for the Super
super super.
Sebring weekend. So I'm excited to see IMSA again, obviously, but I'm much more excited to see the Ferrari 499P, obviously the WEC cars, the Glickenhaus, the Peugeot 9X8, and the Van Wall that will be there. I think
Vanwall
the
is
Van
there.
Wall is there.
Uh,
Um,
like if we are
yeah,
previewing VEC, I just saw the timing sheets like an hour ago.
the
Is
Toyota is
Yeah, it's
has it in
one
the
second ahead of
pocket.
every other car. Only the Cadillac, they can't match them, but
May
the
have a
Cadillac is
chance.
ahead of the rest of the field, which is good
Yeah,
news for the American base.
I mean it's okay. You're not there to watch the
Yeah.
top class anyway. Is what I learned. Like this year at least
Yeah.
is what I learned from from watching the Daytona 24 hours. You're there
The rest
for
of
the
the
rest
field,
of the
yeah.
classes. The top class is just to make you
But
feel
watching
good.
the Ferrari in flesh would be nice. Yeah.
Yes, that I'm looking forward to that a lot. All right, I have another meeting in less than a minute, Vedant, so I have to jump off. Thank you for joining me once again, and I'll catch you after Sebring, and we'll have a lot to talk about.
Absolutely.
That's for sure.